morning.
Boy, oh boy, do I have something exciting for all of you today. Or maybe some of you. The rest of you are probably going to throw up when you see what we're about to go do. Today is November 14th, and just a few short days ago, it snowed 5 inches here. Although it is November and getting kind of chilly outside, I do blame my wife for the snow because she's already put up our Christmas tree. The snowfall and the chilly temperatures are pertinent with what we're about to do, but I'll fill you in on that later. What in God's green earth is that thing? For someone whose blood is colored John Deere green, this is like an extraterrestrial sighting. I couldn't take any chances. I had to make sure I wasn't going to get shocked by this or have some kind of allergic reaction. I was not surprised to find out that case tractors are BYOB. Bring your own battery. Oh, I'm just kidding. This is for something else. I've quite literally been waiting all weekend to make that joke. No, this actually will be fun. I've never ran a case tractor before. I feel like I'm on a different planet right now. How do you speed this thing up? One of these buttons? Something on here? Oh, wait a minute. That's different. All jokes aside, I am actually really excited to run this case quad track in this scraper pan to do some surface drainage work on our farm southeast of Lerna, Illinois. The battery is for this very expensive part of the equation. Oh. Standard farming operations typically operate on a horizontal plane, meaning that we do not need a ton of accuracy up and down as long as we're within reason side to side. However, we are working with surface drainage today where elevation and topography is the end-all be-all, so we do need the added accuracy of another field receiver in combination with an RTK satellite-based system to make sure that all of our scraper work is done at the correct elevation. For the record, this is all foreign to me. I am not a construction expert. I'm not a drainage expert other than very simple aspects of it. So do correct me if I make any wrong statements in this video. So we want to make our best effort to have a level. Oh. I'm sure there's an art to this, and it's lost on me. Looks good. Looks pretty flat. Now onto the actual meat and potatoes. We gotta assemble all of this onto the tripod. There's a lot more legwork to this than there is to just going out and working a field or planting a field. You gotta make sure everything is laser precise. Oh, this is the heaviest part. But the battery is important because there's no solar panel powering this system. Fire this bad boy up and let her load. That right there, I think, is the amount of satellites it's reached. We will have to reestablish our base. That's the first and most important step of this entire process, but we need to wait till we have all the satellites in range. Full disclosure, this is not our tractor. You probably could have guessed that. This is not our scraper, and that's most certainly not our grade-based elevation system. This all belongs to the landowner slash farm manager that we work with on these acres. He also said it'd be much easier if I get this dirt off the back wall before I start. There's really not a whole lot holding this dirt against the back wall other than the fact that it was packed in here, then it got a little bit of moisture from the snow, and then got finished off with some freezing temperatures. It probably would work its way loose if we get out there and start digging. Yeah, I don't think we're going to be able to get it all, so we may just start running. Okay, I would assume that we probably have our satellites connected that is needed to finalize the setup process. Setup SV mode settings, no, escape, take me back home. System setup, let's see that. No. Shoot. So I may have already forgotten how to do this. The operator showed me last night, and I think I've already failed to do it. Oh, there we go. Edit current. New base here. There we go. That's what we're looking for. I don't know what any of this means. We're just gonna keep hitting OK. There we go. Trans sync. That means we got her. The triangulation point is set up. Now we need to ensure that the elevation system on the scraper itself is accurate. Like I said, this is much more complex than our simple tillage operations. We need that sub-inch accuracy so we can make sure the water goes exactly where we want it. Next thing is firing up the tractor side of the equation. Where's the switch at? That feels like a power switch. Maybe? There we go. This must be that new AFS Connect that's all the rage. I assume okay. I have the understanding that Trimble pretty much dominates the drainage and excavating GPS market. However, it has not really overtaken the agriculture sector other than drain tile install and surface drainage work. FMX Plus, that sounds right. Not gonna mess with anything. We're running a Rome scraper. Okay, yes, okay. Holy cow, I'm way overdressed for this. How do you put this thing in drive? Oh, that's a little different than our deer stuff. Back it into the corner. This is to reestablish our benchmark on the scraper. Although the receiver never moves up here on the top of the scraper, it is important to reestablish your benchmark every single time you restart the system. This is to ensure that everything's accurate, so we hit BM, which is benchmark, hit OK. Now it's going to take a second to ensure that everything is captured correctly, and then it will readjust all of the elevation numbers on the scraper. All of this has just been the legwork to see if we can go out and even move dirt. Because of the snow, we have a little bit more moisture in the top inch than we did a few days ago when this project was started, meaning that we may not be able to move dirt through the scraper without packing it in and it not falling back out, because we will be cutting and filling. We need to be able to cut the dirt off of the top of the soil and also dump it into other locations. As you can tell, there's already been a few days spent working out on this farm to start the surface drainage process. Playing with the settings, trying to get the automatic height control turned on. I don't know if there's really a black and white simple way to get it to kick on, because it should eventually just take over control over the up and down hydraulic cylinders on this to maintain grade on the scraper pan. I've got my R1 remote on auto, and I've got my Trimble system on auto, and if I play with this offset, it should raise and lower the scraper, but it's not. You guys want to talk about things I'm very talented at. One of them is having slow starts to my morning. Called the Trimble Tech guy, and now you can see I'm hitting buttons on the screen up front, and it's adjusting the height of the blade, and it will adjust as we go across the field, and it reads the elevation compared to what the design calls for. Now we get to go find out whether or not we're even going to be able to scrape any dirt today. The fun part about running a scraper is that you can kind of just go wherever you want. It does help to have a bit of a strategy, but overall you don't need to really know where exactly you're wanting to head. As long as you got a place to take your dirt that you pull out of the ground. Here's the real question. Is the soil going to dump? Because that's kind of the goal here. I've got to fill spots as well as cut spots. The soil is a little heavier than I'd like, just not dumping out of the pan super easy. However, it's not enough to stop us from running. If anything, I may go focus on the higher, drier locations and go from there. I'm sure the amount of dirt I'm moving out of this farm is perplexing to a lot of you. It's very simple. We're not going to farm this anymore. We're building a truck stop. Or at least that's what I tell the neighbors. No, we are engaging in a little bit of a different approach here with the land manager to ensure our drainage issues on this 100-acre farm southeast of Lerna have been alleviated. Although this is not unheard of, it's relatively uncommon in central Illinois to see this kind of surface work going on across an entire field. Most of the time, a farmer or landowner in central Illinois that has drainage issues will just install drain tile to help alleviate that poor space water, speed up any drainage in wet areas. The real issue with drainage pipe installation is its sheer cost. Don't get me wrong, it is very effective at increasing your drainage capacity and bumping your overall top end yield potential. If you run the numbers on installing a drainage pattern, 4-inch lines on 30 to 40 foot spacing, you're looking anywhere from $1,200 to $1,500 plus if a contractor's installing it. That's not even including if you have to install any major mains to drain it away from the farm. It can get extremely expensive to do those projects. And our operation is not exactly set up with the equipment, the knowledge, or the manpower to install our own drainage tile, though it is something I'd like to look into in the future. If you partake on that adventure on your own, maybe half the cost of having a contractor do it, I'd say just for the pipe, the same process will be $400 to $500 in raw material, not to mention labor and of course equipment. That is where this good old scraper pan comes in. I've been dreading getting out to use the restroom because taking a leak with overalls on is not the most fun thing to do. Let's talk really quickly about what exactly is going on out here. This Case Quad Track and Roam box scraper is a means to an end to fulfilling a surface drainage optimization program. After completing the soybean harvest on this field, it was fairly evident even to a blind person that there was massive drainage issues out on this farm that either needed new tile installed or additional surface drainage. I've already talked about the cost of tile installation. This is a fraction of the price. There is the overhead of the tractor, the scraper, the GPS, and the program to optimize the drainage. At the end of the day though, we're looking at $100 to $200 per acre and a lot of man hours versus $1,000 to $1,500 per acre for a contractor to come in and drain this farm. It's a different approach. Some people use it, especially Australia, I think maybe in the Great Plains, to efficiently drain farms. It's not something you really see here in central Illinois. A scraper is probably either going to be building a parking lot or it's going to be recreating some waterways. It's not going to be shaping the entire farm. After harvest, the owner came out with a side-by-side with a GPS system on it to get a topography map of this farm. He then sent that current topographical map to a company called OptiSurface, who engineers a design of cutting and filling to help improve the overall drainage efficiency on this farm with a little bit of topsoil movement. Basically, using a tool like this. The OptiSurface program, system, and consultant work within a reasonable amount of dirt movement capacity. We might set a limit at a foot of cut at maximum. They look at this farm and they say, okay, how can we eliminate the pockets out here and get the water all headed where it should be going? There is no artificial channels cut out here. We do not alter the overall topographical nature of the farm. We do remove any kind of problem areas and help them get to areas where they will get out of the field. This is what the final rendering of the cut fill map looks like to improve this farm. You can see there are areas in red where there's a lot of cutting to be done, but there's filling next to it. Multiple spots in the field like that. And there's also areas where we're really not going to be moving any dirt at all. Scrapers have a lot of unique features. Being fast is not one of them. We estimate that we'll be able to cover 2 to 3 acres per hour. On a 100-acre field like this, that's 40 to 50 man hours just running this machine. This right here is what the cut and fill map looks like on the Trimble system. I've got the color coding, so blue is fill dirt, red is cut dirt. The darker blue it is, the more you fill, the darker red, the more you cut. There's a strategy to doing this because every cut has a fill location that should coincide, or at least there's a spot for every speck of dirt that is estimated to be cut. There should be somewhere to fill it. Now, it may not always be right next to it, and that's where the real strategy to this process comes into play. For instance, we've got this massive area of fill surrounded by an even bigger area of cutting. So we're going to dive into this spot and hopefully take all of this cut dirt and put it in this low spot. Okay, getting some kind of a GPS issue that's not letting me run auto on the system. Says everything's working. No position. It keeps going back and forth between working and not working. I almost wonder if it's because my truck is parked in between us and the ground receiver. Nope, that did not solve anything. If you couldn't tell already, this all isn't exactly in my wheelhouse. So diagnosing an issue is not going to be the easiest thing. I'm gonna check this ground station first, and if that's not it, then I'll look at the surveying part of the scraper. That's working. Went ahead and moved my truck just to get it out of the line of sight. I don't know if that had anything to do with it, but it can't hurt to move it, I don't think. The owner claimed that he did hit a tree branch on his way over here, which could be causing issues. Auto not allowed still. I've tried everything, so I'm just gonna have to try restarting this screen. If it works, I'll have to re-benchmark, but it'd be better than not doing anything. I hate to say this, but as of right now, I'm actually not really minding this case tractor. This AFS Connect screen is different than what I'm used to. That's pretty much to be expected though from a different brand. They have completely different approaches to how they organize and name these things. I don't even know what you really call this. The throttle with all of your quick functions on it. I could see why someone would like it. It's weird for me as a deer operator because I'm not used to having everything sitting here. My throttle sits on something separate on all of our tractors. Here, what would be my shifter is my throttle, and I shift up on this throttle. So I could see why if you were used to it, it'd actually be a pretty effective system. Oh boy. Implement GPS, that means no luck there. I wasn't gonna give up that easy. I checked the mast here multiple times, played with the wire, never noticed any difference. So I kind of followed the receiver wire back to the tractor, and I noticed something that is most certainly the issue. For some reason, we have an abrasion here on this line. This is the receiver line. It must have just gotten rubbed against something or pulled tight here due to this pile of dirt. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna play with it a little bit and wrap it with tape, and hopefully that does the job. Hate to be the bearer of bad news. Doesn't matter what color equipment you run, they're all gonna have issues. Full RTK fixed. We're gonna drive. My only fear is that movement is gonna jiggle that loose to a state where it's not working. Hopefully the tape holds it. Doesn't look like this is gonna fix it. You see that line is wrapped around all those hydraulic cables that like to jolt when you move the cylinder one direction or the other. And I can definitely see why that line did not last very long, because it's just getting ran across all of that. I've tried about every logical solution. I still can't get that coax to hold a signal. So I'm gonna run into Berkey's in Mattoon. I'm sure they sell this Trimble construction equipment. The good Lord knows our John Deere dealership probably doesn't. Nothing's ever simple on the farm. We deal with Berkey's for our backhoe, so it shouldn't be too much of an issue to hop in here and see if they've got what we need. No luck finding the coax cable I needed. They'd have to order it. I did find something to put on my Christmas list though. This CX260E case track hoe. Berkey's construction store did not have the coax, so I thought maybe I'd check Home Depot. No luck there either, so I'm going to check with a farmer who might have it, and if not, it's going to be out of my hands. This would be an opportune time to have a Radio Shack to run into. Maybe a once in 100-year issue, though I'm sure there's good reason why they're no longer in business. The other farmer came through for us, so we're going to see if we can hodgepodge this back together into operational shape. Looks like we're gonna need every inch we can get. Nope, not gonna work. We need a female connector, and this is a male. I spent the last 4 to 5 hours running around town trying to find the connections. I get that worked out, think that we finally found our temporary fix, and go figure, it doesn't work. With that update, I'm going home and doing something else until this gets figured out in the next day or two. Oh boy, this right here is why we were trying to get as much done as possible before the weather caught up with us. Because once you get into late November, December, you're not going to get very many drying days. If the topsoil gets saturated and will not flow through the scraper correctly, we're pretty much out of luck. Actually, I don't know. Maybe that would scrape. The only thing that makes me question that is the fact that it's sticking to my boots. The ground that I hit with the disc ripper that we have not yet scraped at least one time is probably still dry enough. It looks though like any ground that's been covered with the scraper has absorbed that moisture in the top inch to half inch. That may be enough of a hurdle to prevent us from being able to run. I guess I should mention that someone came out this morning with the appropriate fittings and hardware to reattach this receiver back to the tractor, circumvent that one line that was bad. And according to the owner and operator of this tractor, he claimed that it was going to work. Unfortunately, I have noticed that even if I could run right now, he took the battery home with him that I need for the Trimble GPS system, meaning that I cannot have laser or satellite-based grade control on the scraper. If I knew what I was doing, yeah, I could probably hand control everything, but I'm not even close to that good of an operator with this machine. After a couple days of waiting for ground conditions to improve and another couple days of operating this rig off camera, we are back to put the finishing touches on this farm southeast of Lerna. I've already reestablished the base station. We will have to pull over to the corner and re-bench the scraper system to make sure we're on grade. Since the day we had all of the wiring issues and the scraper was losing connection, the mast and the receiver on the back were not talking to the monitor correctly, we've probably put in 20 to 25 man hours reshaping this farm. I apologize for not filming it. However, after a season of harvest and tillage, it was nice just to sit in the tractor, kick my feet up, and listen to the radio all day and not have to worry about filming. So we are going to finish this project up today. Once we get rolling, I'll also give you my opinion on this Case tractor. Don't really mind the red stuff. Definitely a lot different than the Deeres we run. All things considered though, it does a pretty good job. We'll put it back down to the ground. We'll go in here, re-benchmark it. While the computer calculates away and gets everything dialed in correctly, I'll just highlight what has been done. Pretty much all of this through here, the areas with the largest swaths of cutting and filling, have been completed and refined to a degree that they don't need to be touched again. Today we're going to look over this area right here again, make sure that this is filled accordingly, and then just do a final pass over on areas that we've not touched yet. Doing something a little bit different today. As opposed to using my big camera like I normally would do to get higher quality, I'm using this secondary action camera just so I can have both hands free, be able to focus on my work and commentate on what's going on. This AFS Connect system has taken a lot of getting used to. If there's anything on this Case tractor that is an issue for a deer person like myself, it is this display and layout. I'm not saying that it's problematic if you have experience with it, because it probably is straightforward. It seems confusing to me though. There we go. We just established it on auto. We can actually just play with the button here and you can hear it lifting up. I'm not hitting the lever. That's all running off of the Trimble system. Even in the presence of the correct setup of your base station and your benchmark, you still probably should go out to a spot in the field where you're confident that everything's at grade to look and see whether or not you need to offset your scraping work if you're not entirely on the money. Now we're dealing with surface drainage here, so at the end of the day it's not a huge issue if we do not get it exactly fine-tuned. Surface drainage is a much simpler beast than subsurface drainage. If you're putting tile systems out in the field, you really need it as accurate as possible because grade is everything. Grade does matter to surface drainage, however, we're not going to completely condemn a project here because it's off grade by 1/10 of an inch. This area right here had a lot of cutting and filling. It was one of the first things we started on, and we do believe that it is too grade. So I'm going to use it to establish whether or not my benchmark is correct. Now we're going to bump this down to 0. It looks like we are maybe a fraction of an inch above the ground, cutting in some places very minimally, so I think this will do. It's very important to know if you're off because you will need to offset it here on this Trimble monitor. Right now we're in one of the areas that had a lot of dirt movement. You can see blue is a very deep fill, and then red are cuts. These cuts have been done. However, to the west here, we have a hill we need to shave off, and we haven't completely filled in this low spot. That's why we're going to come out here, cut these hills off, relocate them over there. The real art of surface shaping like this, because if you do not approach it with the right amount of slope and grade control, you'll take way too much dirt off and become incredibly inefficient at what you're doing. So as we go through this hill right here, you can see the red on the trimble monitor. We're running an inch above grade just to make sure that we don't get too much dirt. We're going to shave it off. See pulling this nice case tractor down hard. It's going to start dumping when we go back over the fill area. Right here. Couldn't really ask for this dirt to be flowing any better than it is right now. It's about 55 degrees and sunny today. After a week in the 20s, this feels like paradise. When I was running off camera right after the snow had happened, I was getting a lot of packing in the scraper box, and that wet dirt or mud would kind of clamp together and not really want to flow out easy. Now I'm having no problems at all cutting and filling. It took me about 5 hours in this tractor to figure out the auto steer. Once I accomplished that, it's relatively straightforward. I can see why someone would like an operating system such as the one that runs on these case tractors. I'm just so used to Deere equipment that it all seems so foreign. I've got the actual design map for this entire shaping project on this 98-acre field. It calls for 6,800 yards of cutting. Those are cubic yards. Watch this magnificent sunset and more importantly lose all of our light, I'll show you guys kind of what the finished product looks like. It does take an experienced eye to tell, but areas that have that nice shaved appearance like right there are spots where I've cut off a hilltop. Areas with this nice powdery dirt is where I have filled in. Basically, as I go over these low areas and the grade control raises and lowers the scraper, it creates a gap underneath the blade, letting dirt off on grade. The dirt is in magnificent shape today. Cannot complain one bit about how it's flowing through the scraper. Just to clarify, we will not cover every single acre on this field. We put our primary focus on the troublesome areas. If we have a little extra time and favorable weather, we may cover a few areas that aren't really pressing, but we do know will improve overall drainage. We spent the lion's share of our time out here through the middle where all of our yield drag ponding was in the soybeans, because that's where we'd see our quickest return on our efforts and our financial investment. And the best part of this is that it's not my scraper, it's not my tractor, it's not my field. So really, this is just a fun little experience for me. Across the middle of this field, we cut and filled a tremendous amount of dirt. And we're not even done yet. At some point in time, I just have to wave the checkered flag for this project because I've been running out here for quite a while, and I definitely could sit in this tractor and run it for another 12 hours because it's so satisfying to come out here and make improvements on the land. I would not mind sitting in this tractor cab for quite a bit longer. My wife, on the other hand, would not be too thrilled. And for the most part, we've pretty much polished this field off to where it should drain properly when we get a big rainfall. Not if, when, because it is inevitable at some point in time, unless of course we have some kind of biblical drought. That being said, this is going to be the end of my tenure here in this Case IH quad track. I'll give it a thumbs up-ish, kind of. It's a good tractor. Time to pack up base camp. Shutting this down is a lot simpler than starting it up. Yep, it's that easy. Wants to give me a Christmas present, I'll take one of these bad boys. Well, it's been a pretty good run, Red Tractor. But all good things must come to an end, especially when you don't own them. At first I was afraid, I was petrified. I'll spare you the horror of having to listen to me sing that song. Check back in with you guys tomorrow. Morning. This morning we have to take care of one more necessary evil to complete our dirt movement project over in Lerna, and it involves the disc ripper. 9620 has plenty of oil. The indirect side effect of moving that much topsoil, cutting and filling in so many different locations, is that we've created an unnecessary amount of compaction that we're hoping to alleviate with this last pass of the disc ripper. Maybe by next spring it'll be nice and softened up. That way we can plant without any long-term issues. Back in a nice John Deere cab. The final goal of this entire project over at Lerna is to turn a frog into a prince. We have a farm with a lot of potential. It consists of some extremely productive soils, but its drainage issues kill any opportunity to produce a bountiful crop out there. This disc ripper should be the last step in that equation to finalize the farm. Temperatures are supposed to get back up into the 60s today. Hasn't rained or snowed anymore since we were last out at the farm, so this ground ought to work up pretty good. The fun part about hopping back in this tractor after running that red machine for a few days is being able to make comparisons between the two models. Now this Deere tractor and the Case tractor are both within the same model year range, I think. They're 1 to 2 years old. The other obvious differences, other than the color of the tractors, is that this is a wheeled machine, the Case is a tracked machine, and this has about 150 more rated horsepower. So it is going to be able to pull things better. Looks like it's our lucky day today. No traffic. Last time we were here to fluff this up for the scraper. This time we're here to fluff this up for the field cultivator next spring. That and to work in some fertilizer. Because there was so much topsoil planned to be moved around, it didn't make sense for the owner and the manager to put fertilizer on because we would have taken it all over the field. There would have been pockets with a lot of our synthetic fertilizer that we applied in other areas where it wasn't there because we scraped all the topsoil off. Those are our two goals: alleviate compaction and work in the fertilizer. Spent so much time in that red tractor, let's see if we can figure out how to make auto steer line on here. Set track heading, 0 and 180 are straight line numbers. It's based on 360 degrees. I'd say we're gonna go about 190. I don't think it really matters what direction I go. It's gonna be rough regardless. Oh yeah, there are some spots out here that are a little bit tight. For obvious reasons, this tillage pass is going to be a little different than the one we did previously just a week ago. The main reason for that is that we're only focusing on areas where there was a lot of dirt work done. If I have already worked it and I don't see any reason to work it again, I'm going to avoid those spots. The one other location that I want to avoid is the main geographical drain leaving the farm. I don't really want to loosen that soil. I want it to be firm because if we get a rain, all of that water is going to be making its way out. I don't want a lot of loose soil because the soil will go with the water to some degree. There's what the fertilizer looks like on top of the ground. We've got some monoammonium phosphate and some potash here, our P and K sources, with a tiny bit of nitrogen. It's not really the reason we put these products on. The nitrogen is just part of the package with the MAP and the DAP, or the phosphates you apply. Really, we're just looking for phosphorus and potassium. That is the main nutrients we want to put on in the form of dry fertilizer. Nitrogen we usually put on as a side dress or in the spring because it's much more volatile and sensitive to the environment. Since the main goal of this fertility program is not to put nitrogen in the ground, we really don't have to work in the P and the K. They're not much of a flight risk on top of the soil unless we have some kind of catastrophic flooding event. They will slowly work their way into the profile. Nitrogen, you don't want to leave on the top because the sunlight, warm temperatures at certain points in the off season will cause that nitrogen to make its way either up into the atmosphere or down into the ground below where your plants can reach it. One other thing we're accomplishing while we're out working this field is leveling out some of the imperfections I left behind in the cutting and filling process. For the most part, it is relatively smooth across the field, though there are a few areas where I'm rattling my teeth out. It doesn't help that I cross this a million different directions and left small ridges and piles and locations. I've been working for an hour and a half to 2 hours now. I'd say I've got 30, 35, maybe even 40 acres done. The 9620R is starting to throw some error codes of moderate warning, not red, just yellow, that it has low voltage and I need to address the issue. We put a brand new alternator on this tractor just a couple of weeks ago, and by we I mean Alliance Tractor. Still under warranty, the original alternator with 220 hours on it went bad. I'm wondering if there's some kind of alignment issue, maybe it's not tight enough. So I'm gonna go ahead and pop it open and see if I can address anything. There's the alternator right there. Looks like it's spinning. Don't really know what else to look at to address the problem. Not only is this beyond my expertise, I also probably shouldn't be playing around in there with the engine running. Switch monitors real quick and you can see our voltage right now is running anywhere from 12 to 13 and a half, which I would think is the ideal range. As we bounce through the field, we do start to kind of work our way down to almost 12 volts, and that's when the error starts to pop up. Didn't pop back up for about 30 minutes after we checked everything over. Here it is again though, low voltage on the system. It's almost like the electrical system as a whole is slowly getting behind, which is really surprising because I'm not using anything that's that demanding in terms of electricity. We've got 2 monitors running and a radio and some air conditioning. Other than that though, we're not consuming much power. Once it reaches the point where it can't keep up, then it starts to give me the low voltage code every single round. I would say that I pretty much have this tillage project completed. I worked maybe 65 to 70 acres of the 100 acres that are here. leaving our drain untouched in a few areas where we did not do any dirt work. I thought it was unnecessary to cover it again. With all that done, I just need to polish up one area on the ends and then hit the road. You can see our main drain right there that's unworked. Water comes from west to east and makes its way off the property. Look at how much dirt and dust is built up on these fenders. Wow. In other news, the tractor still is not happy with me. We've never dipped below 12 volts, but it is going off pretty regularly that we have low power. After an incredible amount of man hours dedicated to this entire project, it's finally time to head home. This very well may be our last trip through Lerna for the next couple of months. I'm happy to report that I made it through without hitting any signs, which is a good finish to the year for me. I'm ready to take the weekend off. Thanksgiving's tomorrow. I'm actually ready for a winter of not taking tractors down the road all the time. 115 gallons of diesel fuel later, and we are ready to put this in the barn for the evening. Cornheads still need to find a permanent resting place for this off-season because the augers have taken their normal spot. I'd say that storage in this barn is getting pretty limited regardless of what we move around. I think it's time to build a shop. It'd be pretty nice. Then again, I may be talented at just finding ways for us to waste money on frivolous items. The silver lining to not having a nice climate-controlled shop to work in and wash your equipment is that you don't have to look very far for an excuse not to work in the off seasons. Anyways, folks, if you can't tell, our fall work is really starting to wind down. We've been blessed with such a larger opportunity this year to get all of this tillage and dirt work done, as opposed to last season where we were just pressed to get our crop out of the ground. I know that the dirt work we did in this video is pretty foreign to a lot of you, so make sure you drop your questions down below and I'll make sure and try and get back to every single one of them. That's definitely going to be it for me though. I greatly appreciate every single one of you continuing to tune in and support the channel. Hope to see you guys all in the next episode, but until then, make sure you like the video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you want to see more, and comment down below if you have any questions. You know I love to talk about farming. Have a great day, everyone. Peace!